Since Halloween has been and gone, you're likely to have quite a bit of pumpkin left if you're anything like me. And so, in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make pumpkin juice. So it's a bit like the ones that you'll find in the Harry Potter films, but this one has quite a lot of booze in it. So if you're not too into booze, don't worry, I'm going to be giving you a non-alcoholic version so that younger witches and wizards can also enjoy this as well. So this is going to be perfect for post-Halloween. It's also going to be perfect for Halloween next year, I guess, but also Thanksgiving, Labor Day, all of that sort of stuff, you know, whenever you want a pumpkin. Is Labor Day around then? I don't know, I'm not American. Now, I guess the biggest secret to any pumpkin juice recipe is that it's not really pumpkin juice. I mean, if you just took a pumpkin, squeezed it, pulped it, and just chucked in the juice into a drink, yuck. But you can definitely use this recipe to make some really lovely tasting pumpkin juicy kind of inspired drinks. So click that like button right now, subscribe and ding that bell because it's all coming up right now. This recipe makes around about 2 litres, so I've got a big jug. You're going to need a jug or some sort of bowl or something like that that you can mix all of this stuff in. Okay, so the very first thing we're going to need is a copy of the Potioneer's Magical Cocktails Cookbook, which is my book, and we'll open it to page 394. I'm kidding, page 37. We're going to need some apple cider or some apple juice. Now this one is fermented apple juice, so it is apple cider. It's Strongbow original. It was just lying about in the man cave, so I decided to get 4 cans of this and chuck it in, but you can also use apple juice, no problem. The next thing you're going to want to do, if you want to stick with the booze, is to go with some vanilla vodka. This one is absolute vanilla vodka, bit of a tongue twister, but if you want to go non-alcoholic, you could also use a vanilla pod. If you're going to go with a vanilla pod, all you do is slice it all the way down the length, split it open, and then just chuck it in and let it infuse for a while. If you do use a vanilla pod, also add a little bit more simple syrup, which we'll get to in just a second. So the 2 litres of liquid works out to roughly 5 drinks, and I'm going to make that in my massive jug. But I'm also going to bottle it so that I can keep it for longer because I've got a party at the weekend, and I'm going to do that off camera because you don't want to see that. All you want to see is this amazing thing coming together, so let's do that right now. So this is the potty pumpkin juice inspired by Harry Potter, but certainly not from Harry Potter because it is quite boozy. We're going to go for 2 litres or 5 drinks, which I'm going to hold in this jug. Next up, we're going to need 2 litres of apple cider. You can also use apple juice, but I've got some Strongbow just lying around in the man cave, so I've got 4 cans of this. This is 500ml each. Next, we're going to need 1.5 teaspoons of pumpkin puree, which you can buy in a can if you haven't got your own pumpkin, or you can use a pumpkin like I'm about to do and just mash it until it's dead. We're going to need 8 ounces of simple syrup, depending on your preference. So simple syrup is basically a sugar and water mix in roughly 50-50. Now you can make that in huge quantities, but it will go off after a while. It does keep in the fridge for about 6 months, but I'm just going to make it on the day. All you have to do is just grab some sugar, grab some water, heat up the water, stir it all in, make sure it's dissolved, and then let it cool. Easy. We're also going to need 3/4 teaspoon of pumpkin spice, which is cinnamon, nutmeg, ginger, cloves, and allspice. Very nice. Now you can also use a vanilla pod instead of vanilla vodka, but I'm going to use vanilla vodka because the people that I'm serving are going to like alcohol. So let's start out. We won't rim the glass just yet, we're going slightly off-piste here, but what we're going to do first of all is to add the cider to the jug. So, nice big pour like this, glug glug glug. Now this is actually quite frothy, fizzy cider. It might be better if you degas it first, which is what I'm going to do. Okay, once you have all of this cider all poured out, we're going to degas it in just a moment, but to make that a little bit easier, I'm going to pour in the vodka first. So we're going to need about 5 ounces, or 148 roughly, we'll increase that to 150 I think, millilitres of vanilla vodka, which is to there. Oh, that smells delicious. In it goes. The next thing we're going to need is 8 fluid ounces. We're going to call that about 210 millilitres, something like that, and chuck that in of simple syrup. So that's the sugar and water mix that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so once you've got the simple syrup, it's not entirely completely done. I could stir that a little bit more, but I think that's about as good as it's going to get for now. Just add that one straight in, and because there are a few little bits and bobs that haven't fully dissolved yet, this is probably going to froth a bit. Maybe not. Okay, so give that a bit of a stir. I'm using a wooden spoon because it'll have a few more nucleation points than a plastic or metal one. I know that sounds really silly, but it does kind of help get the gas out a little bit quicker and easier. Of course, you could always use flat cider, which is probably the way to go rather than using something like Strongbow that's been heavily carbonated. Alrighty, I think that's probably alright. Next up is the pumpkin spice, and contrary to popular belief, this isn't pumpkin flavour because it doesn't make anything taste like pumpkin. In fact, it flavours the pumpkin. So it's like anti-pumpkin flavouring, which is weird. I don't actually have any of that, but I do have the core ingredients, which are cinnamon, nutmeg, and you could also use cloves as well. I don't personally like cloves, so I'm going to go without. But if you grab one of these nutmeg here, you can actually smash it with a pestle and mortar. Now, I'm not going to need a whole nutmeg, that'll be kind of gross. So I'm just going to put the rest back and maybe use about half of a nutmeg, roughly. Now, I find that crushing a nutmeg is a lot more preferable to grating or shredding one with a knife because it's a bit more fun, and I feel like it gives a bit more of an aromatic flavour, and you can also get it really, really, really fine, which is obviously good, especially in a drink, because you don't want that sort of weird texture either. Okay, once that's done, give it a good squidge of cinnamon as well, plenty of that. Mix it all around a bit. 3/4 of a teaspoon, it says in the recipe. In it goes. So, next, stir that all up. In all likelihood, it probably will float. Don't panic. Is now a good time to taste? That's alarmingly good. Next, we're going to need some pumpkin puree. You could buy this in a can. I've actually got some in the microwave at the moment from my own pumpkins that I grew at home. So let's go grab some of that. Okay, next up we have our homemade pumpkin puree. We want about 1.5 teaspoons of this. It will kind of go a bit globby and initially quite cloudy, but hopefully this will stir in quite nicely and give it a nice little colour. And finally, for the pièce de résistance, we're going to be plating this up, or dishing this up, glassing this up, not sure. Take a glass like this and dip it into some water like this, and then into some cinnamon like that, just to rim the glass. And then come straight in with a massive jug of lovely pumpkin juice and straight over the top, like that. Now, of course, you can serve this hot, you can serve it cold, it doesn't really matter, but that is one beautiful drink. Oh yes. Delicious.
Very magical.